Alright, today we'll have a little discussion video. I actually want to talk about something for a while now, and recently I made a video playing Duo Avatar. It was actually pretty fun, but it got me thinking, how much has Yu-Gi-Oh really changed since the release of this set? I believe this archetype debuted in Phantom Rage like a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago or something, and actually a lot has changed since then. So let's hop into Master Duel so I can show you what I'm talking about. Basically, I looked at two cards in this archetype and I was like, okay, something is really weird here, and I'm gonna let you know what the effects of each of them do so you can tell me what's different since then. So during the main phase, if you control a Duo Avatar fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster, aka you have to use Kokoko or Yuhi to summon using an effect monster. Basically, you can target one face-up monster special summon from the extra deck, negates its effects until the end of the turn, and also what the empowered Mitsujaku does, when a monster effect is activated to your opponent's side of the field while you control two or more fusion monsters, you can destroy that monster. So this is your usual negation effect and popping effect, but what's different about them is the restrictions. You really cannot use them just like that. You gotta meet the requirements first, and that's actually what I want to talk about today. So not only is it hard to summon them, but the effects are also not available unless you meet certain conditions, and let's compare them to something that came out recently, Baron. Baron is actually completely different. You don't need to do anything to get it. You just use generic monsters. You don't have any restrictions to it. You don't have any requirements, and it's an Omni Negate and a popping effect. So you basically get both of them, one of which is not going to be a quick effect, but still, you kind of get a little bit of both. If you have to compare it to a 4-year-old archetype, basically you have Armored Agyo and also the Armored Ungyo combined, which means a negation plus a popping effect, which is actually not even that great because you need to target an attack position monster specifically. And on top of that, to get the actual negation, you need to target a special summon monster from the extra deck, dude. And this is literally an Omni Negate plus popping effect on the effect. Not only that, you get an additional pop if you use it this turn, and it's generic to summon with no drawbacks. And this is where the problem comes. How is this card so good yet so easily summonable, you know? This is the change that happened through the years. You just have little to no restrictions to summon any good boss monster, and that's not only Baron, dude. They're actually way easier targets to summon. Where do I even begin, bro? Let's say a Palooza, you get up to 4 monster effect negation on literally one card. This is like crazy. Or we have IP. Not even gonna start talking about this. This is like the #1 piece that every single deck ends on. And then we also have SP, which is actually one of the most used cards in general. You get a banishing effect, then another banishing effect, which is like, okay, sure. And so what I'm trying to say here is that literally another archetype from 4 years ago basically has both of the effects combined. Actually, you can even combine 3 of the effects. Let's say you have a monster effect negation with some restriction, popping effect with some restriction, and then another quick effect popping effect as well with some restriction. It's still not as good as Baron alone, or basically like a Palooza, dude. A Palooza is 4 negates, Baron is Omni Negate plus pop plus another pop, SP is 2 banishes. Like, dude, this is how crazy the game has gotten since then. The power creep is incredible in just 4 years, and I'm always thinking about it every time something new comes out, right? It gets even more ridiculous. So it's really crazy to me that these effects really exist. Like, for example, take also Magia, dude. This card has 3 negations. Like, oh my god, dude. And you can even destroy the cards afterwards. Like, dude, okay, this is a little harder to summon, you know, compared to the other ones, but it's still OP as shit. And this is pretty much with everything new that comes out to the game. And what I'm trying to say here is that maybe we need to address these things, because at this point it gets even crazier. Like, for example, how can we make Baron balanced? If you think about it, maybe Baron can be restricted to certain archetypes. Maybe you can restrict it to only the floor archetype, which would definitely make it way less useful. Because the cool thing about playing Yu-Gi-Oh is the fact that you play different archetypes, different decks, right? This is like the most fun thing about it, at least for me. And when you have to play the same boss monsters and then on the same boards just because they're the best ones, like, dude, it doesn't really make a difference, right? Whether you're gonna play this top tier deck or this top tier deck and you're gonna end on the same board pieces, it becomes a little too repetitive in my opinion. So in my opinion, it would be really cool if they print cards that have a similar power level but they are tied to a specific archetype. And let's take the biggest example, bro. I really want to talk about this one, Beatrice. Dude, this card got butchered in TCG, OCG, basically everywhere. I'm happy that it's at least available in Master Duel for now, but come on, dude, you cannot even play Burning Abyss without this. Just make it restricted to only Burning Abyss cards. For example, you can mill only a Burning Abyss card, so you can actually play the archetype that it belongs to, right? I don't like that most of the end board pieces really don't have any identity. You just use them because they're good. So the question kind of becomes, how do you create better cards so people want to buy them and play with them, but not make them like ridiculously broken? And this is the part where things really don't add up sometimes and it becomes really annoying. For example, to me, it's really annoying that an archetype like Yubel had to be hit in a way that Sacred Beast got destroyed. For example, you limit Dark Beckoning Beast and the opening of the Spirit Gates. Like, why, dude? There are some people, like maybe 2 players who want to play Sacred Beast, fine. But still, it is not fun that the older deck gets the hit just because the new one is too broken and they have to limit it in some way and they just don't want to nerf it yet. And this happens many times. The Beatrice is a clear example in TCG and OCG, dude. You cannot play Burning Abyss now simply because Beatrice was too good to let let people play it in other decks. You don't need to ban the card, just change it so it's actually balanced. And for a lot of those monsters, it becomes a similar thing. For example, Hulky Fibrax as well is a clear example of this. If you just design it so that it's a Crystron card, nobody would care about it but Crystrons. And when you see it's too broken, you can just change it, right? You don't need to ban it straight up. And I don't really like the way that they design cards so that they're good for every deck. For example, every single deck that can end on a board with IP or a Palooza or Baronet Flood or Beatrice and have something good to send to the grave, they will do that simply because they are good monsters. And a lot of the times they miss out on some of the archetypal cards because they're just not as broken. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I don't know if you agree with this. I think most people will agree with this. It's a fair assumption, right? Simply because diversity is not really the case. You just summon every single normal thing. Like, dude, if you give me a coin every time I see SP Little Knight when I play Yu-Gi-Oh, I can guarantee you that 1 out of 2 games I'm gonna see this card because it's like one of the most played cards and it's not even a main deck one. It becomes less creative, and that's not cool because creativity is one of the most important features for deck building, for example, and it's really cool to have access to different tools that you can use specifically for your archetype or specifically for your strategy, not end on a similar board as your opponent, just in different ways. But there are actually some great changes. For example, Pot of Greed switching to Talent. Talent is actually a really cool designed card. Now, it has a little too much effects in my opinion, but still it has a really specific restriction and you can just fire it off wherever you want to draw 2 cards, and that seems kind of fair to me. And also all of the other pots work in a similar way. For example, Desires requires you to banish 10 cards, Pot of Prosperity requires you to banish cards from the extra deck, Pot of Extravagance from the extra deck again. So you have a restriction that you need to go through in order to do what you want, which is something that a lot of these monsters don't have. That is why they're the most used choices, simply because they have the most broken effects. Like, dude, tell me a better link for than a Palooza. Like, this has up to 4 monster effect negation. Nothing can match this, right? That is why every single person that has access to 4 bodies, they go for a Palooza because it's like the best card to summon the majority of times. There aren't many decks that would prefer to go for archetypal card compared to a Palooza, for example, because it's so good. But actually really cool design is something like the Ritual Beast Link Monster. It's cool that this card is preferred compared to a Palooza because you simply use it for the archetypal effects as well, something that you can't access with a generic monster. In my opinion, that seems like a great design, and I think they need to make more of it because essentially you're gonna prefer to summon your archetypal card that has something specific to your archetype, which makes it better than some of the generic options. So for example, if they ban like Baron, Likuribu, IP, a Palooza, that would be really fun because then you're gonna choose some archetypal cards and then we'll have more variety and more diversity. I think this would be healthier and more fun for the game. I don't know, that's kind of my opinion on the topic. I just wanted to talk about power creep and everything that's happening in Yu-Gi-Oh for the recent years. Let me know what you think about it as well. Check out more Yu-Gi-Oh must do content, stuff like that. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe would be very appreciated and really helpful. As always, have a great day and I'll see you in the next video.